Eastern Time. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. Great to have you with us. Jarom Jordan alongside Tyler Haws on the first day of March Madness first round. Can't wait. Brackets are filled out. Let's go. Game's going. Okay, let's get out to Indianapolis. Greg Wrubell, the voice of the Cougars there, he's going to call the game on the radio, of course. And Greg, on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline, can you report of anyone else stuck in any elevators?
No, and my trips have all been without incident here in Indy.
That's great to know. Tell us what it's like, because obviously it's the most unique NCAA tournament that will ever happen. What's the setup? What's life like for you? Because the guys are in the bubble, yet you're going to be in the venue like everybody else.
Yeah, so it's called the controlled environment, and for the players, that means 4 team hotels, the Indiana Convention Center, the adjacent AAA or the minor league baseball field for outdoor activity, and then the game venues. That's where the players, the tiers 1, 2, and 3 individuals can navigate, and those outside the tier can have venue access, but not to the same places that the players and coaches generally have access. So there's really 2 environments going on right now: the controlled one, and then the tier 4, or the outside of the controlled environment sphere. And that's where I find myself. And yet it feels like March Madness. Downtown Indianapolis is filled with all of the signs and the logos and the vibe that you expect from a tournament, the buses, the police escorts. You see the stuff you normally get around this time of year. You just don't have the same kind of freedom of movement. I love tournament time for the vibe you get in the gym, and Ty can speak to this, even the day before the game, when you go to practice, the fans are in the stands for the practice and multiple teams in and out, and you really get the sense of something live and happening. And that's not happening this year. The teams are practicing in those venues, but by themselves, no fans, no media. And so I'll get in for my game and then out when my game is over. And that's kind of the way I'll experience it. So some things are the same, and many things feel very different. And that's one of the things I miss the most, is just that being in the gym, being on the floor, and that sense that for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, that building is alive with hoops.
That's right. There's definitely an energy that comes along with March Madness. I'm just glad we're playing basketball, Greg. Glad we have games. Hey, so BYU has a first round matchup. UCLA, I thought they battled Michigan State. They were down 14 in that game. What were your thoughts on that UCLA Michigan State game last night?
Well, it's UCLA's best comeback in a couple seasons, but it's not unusual for them. They've actually won 4 games this year when down double digits. That's an interesting note about this UCLA team. They're never out of it. They don't have to have a lot of things go their way to get a positive result. Some teams you find, and their trends are very polar opposites. They win all the time when this happens, and they tend to lose all the time when that happens. And UCLA is really in the middle on a lot of stuff. They can be down at halftime as well and win games, as they were last night. They've won multiple games this year when trailing at the break. So UCLA is a team that, albeit operating at a slow tempo, and let's note that their tempo is very slow. They're ranked 334th in tempo. That doesn't scream comeback ability. That's why if you get a decent lead against St. Mary's, you feel like you've got that thing, because they can't really spurt on you. But UCLA is a team that, despite playing slow, has a lot of comeback wins and wins when down at the break. So that's an interesting thing about the Bruins. The bigger question, or one of the bigger questions, is if leading scorer Johnny Juzang plays, or if he plays, how well he plays. Certainly when it initially happened, didn't look good. The reaction was pretty negative. But then when you watch the replay again, you've seen worse ankle rolls, obviously, and not that it was insignificant, but it wasn't one that you thought, well, he doesn't come back from. And he has dealt with recent ankle issues and come back. He missed the USC game to end the regular season with an ankle injury, came back in the tournament, at the Pac-12 tournament. So he's kind of been in and out a little bit with ankle problems. We'll see how that turns out for him tomorrow night. Clearly, it's a benefit to BYU if Juzang's not, full go. And you wouldn't expect him to be entirely full go based on the injury. But, when postgame happened last night, he was bouncing around pretty good. So.
Yeah, when UCLA won, I was like, he looks like he's just fine. So we'll see what happens. He had 23 in that game. And then Jaime Jaquez had a career-high 27. He was awesome. He seems like a tough matchup. I wonder if, we were talking about it, Caleb Lohner and/or a Gideon George matchup on him. What do you think?
Yeah, one of those guys, right? They're good. One of the I'll say, I'm not going to say it's a good thing, but BYU has had challenges with bigs that play on the perimeter. And UCLA doesn't have any bigs who do that. All their bigs play in the post. It's much more of a traditional interior defense BYU can throw. Now, Haws is different, right? He's a long four, long three, stretch four. He'll play all over the place. And you can really throw a Caleb or a Gideon on him and hope for the best. But Matt can play essentially a traditional post defense against UCLA bigs who aren't very big to begin with. They max out around 6'9", and they don't play on the perimeter. I think the three main bigs have combined for 2-3 attempts on the year and haven't made one. So that's not a part of their game. So BYU may be able to play a little more, traditionally on the interior, but Haws is, the difference maker. He didn't play but 11 minutes against BYU in Maui and didn't score a point. So between Haws and Juzang, you have guys who scored 50 points last night when BYU saw 0 points from either of those guys in Maui. Haws was not playing a lot, scored 0, and then Juzang was with another team at the time. So the last meeting in Maui is somewhat instructive, but not a lot back. BYU's got 4 guys back from that game. UCLA's got 6 guys back from that game, but half of those guys didn't score in that game. So it's a really different looking team for Mick Cronin. None of the guys for UCLA had played in an NCAA tournament game until last night. And for BYU, none of their guys have played in a game for BYU. You do have 2 guys who have tournament experience, Matt Harms, of course, with Purdue, and Brandon Averett with Oklahoma State.
Greg, BYU's arguably playing their best basketball of the season right now. They're peaking at the right time. You're a trend guy, a numbers guy. What trends are you seeing in this BYU team that makes you more confident, less confident matching up against UCLA?
Well, I'll go to the tempo trend for a moment. BYU isn't a super fast team. They're not a super slow team. They're ranked 200th in tempo. They're middle of the pack that way nationally, and they can certainly play a little quicker on offense than that. In fact, if you go to their offensive tempo numbers, BYU's average offensive possession length is 148, so right in the middle of the pack. So let's say BYU's a middle of the pack tempo team. UCLA is a slower team, a really slow team. Well, BYU's done well with slow tempo teams this year in slow tempo games. UCLA averages 64.6 possessions per game, and BYU's played 5 games at 65 possessions or fewer, and they've won all 5 this year. They're 5-0 in those slower games, and they beat St. Mary's twice. St. Mary's is among the slowest teams in the country. UCLA only slightly faster. So I'll go with that one. And then kind of a bigger picture thing, Ty. I like the fact that BYU's had 3 games against the overall number 1 seed. And in the last game against them, had a real good chance to win that game. And so I think that really sets you up for anything you're about to face in the NCAA tournament. UCLA is good, and there's a reason that they were, 8-0 in the Pac-12 to start the year. It's a really good basketball team. They didn't see themselves as an 11th seed a month ago, but you lose 4 in a row. That takes you from, 6, 7, 8 to 9, 10, 11 pretty quickly. So UCLA somewhere they didn't expect to be, but they were good enough to put themselves in a position to be a favored seed until that 4-game losing skid. Let's note that UCLA has that 4-game slide. They've also lost 2 in a row earlier in the year, and BYU under Mark Pope has still yet to lose consecutive games at any point. The Cougs try to keep that streak alive tomorrow night.
It is game day eve. We're talking to Greg Wrubell live from Indianapolis, where BYU will take on UCLA in Hinkle Fieldhouse tomorrow. But we buried the lead, Greg. BYU went viral for not 1 but 2 videos last night. Yeah. Well, as you said, where there's a will, there's a Wade, as Richard Harward and BYU break him out. And then BYU's COVID testing starting lineup video went viral as well. That was a fun moment that nationally people got a peek at the best locker room in America.
Yeah, and I loved how the TNT guys last night put it on their post-game show, and the Cougars are already getting again they're kind of anchoring themselves in the nation's subconscious a little bit right now with what's going on. So it'd be great if they can get the wins to kind of throw on top of that and make BYU a fun story to cover as this thing rolls on. But as we all know, the guys that we've been around the team all year. Coach Pope and his staff and players are such an amazing group, and in so many ways, the vibe of the team reflects the vibe of the head guy. And we all just love being around the program and love the influence Coach Pope has had on the program. And I think it's cool that these, videos went the way they did. And it says a lot about me that as I'm watching the elevator video, all I'm thinking is, please nobody get hurt in the execution of this rescue. Yes. The last thing you need is, a guy out with a broken hand because the door slammed shut on him, So it was cool, though. It was great what they did. And you can just tell, no matter who, no matter the role anyone occupies on this team, everyone feels a part of that same vibe. And, I think best locker room in America is a real thing, right?
It is.
Definitely is. Greg, there was so much disappointment last year with the team not being able to even play an NCAA tournament game. They definitely had some hype going into that tournament. Is this team this year, are they trying to avenge what happened last year?
I don't think it was a real sense of avenge as much as a sense of respect and honor and appreciation. And Jarom and I have talked a lot about this too, that, this year's team owes a lot to last year's team, and in a lot of ways can pay off, in some ways, the efforts of last year's team that went unrewarded. This year's team earned its results on its own. There's no doubt about that. But I think a lot of what happened last year can be seen in what this year's guys are doing, and hopefully this year's team can enjoy success that last year's team wasn't able to experience. And Ty, you're so close to Tej, and you know how hard he worked throughout his career to get to that point. And I just, my heart broke for him last year for that reason, because it was going to be the culmination of a long grind.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it's like to get the reward, for those efforts. One of the great things about the NCAA tournament, guys, is how hard it is to get into, and how good the teams are when you get there. It's no joke. I mean, the 11 seeds we saw playing last night, those 11 seed play-in games, those were the last of the best in college basketball this year. That's how good these teams were. I mean, Michigan State has 3 wins over, 3 of the top 6 overall seeds in this tournament. That's an 11 seed in this tournament. That's how good this tournament is. It's hard to get into. It's the holy grail of college hoops. And it's such a reward and a relief to get there. And we know that, Tej had earned that spot and didn't get to fully enjoy it. So for guys like Tej, these guys get to go play and hopefully, take this thing more than a game.
Yeah, it's cathartic to some degree, that's for sure. Remind people, I know it's a unique setup in the NCAA tournament with radio, how people can listen to you and Mark on the radio.
Yeah, so the NCAA retains the rights to satellite and streaming of NCAA tournament games. And so local radio for us at BYU, that means KSL 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. So, and our network affiliates in central, southern Utah, southern Idaho. So along the Wasatch Front, you'll be able to get the game tomorrow night. And since it's a nighttime game, KSL's 1160 signal comes in loud and clear over multiple states. And so I think a lot of BYU fans will be able to tune in tomorrow night. So remember, it'll be on 102.7 FM locally, 1160 AM on the broader Western U.S. standpoint. But that's the only way to get Mark Durant and me tomorrow night due to the restrictions they have come NCAA tournament time on the satellite and the stream.
Okay, awesome. We appreciate the time, Greg. Tell hello to Jimmy Chitwood for me.
Yeah, I'll go find him. We'll go find him out here in the parking lot. I'm thinking got a hoop set up. And Jarom, always good to be with you. And Ty, really good to see you and be with you. Such love for you and your family. And this is a great time of year, I know, for you as a fan and a former player. And I'm loving it too. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Go Cougs. Thanks, Greg.